We are back again for another standard deck tech with March of the Machines, and today's featured deck from the user submitted decks from MTG Goldfish. We have another discussion of a 5-color build. Let's call this one as the March of the Machines 5-color Praetors by Anonymous. So this one, as we mentioned, 5 colors. So we do it accommodating all of the Praetors, and then what do? We just overwhelm them with each of these Praetors ability and card advantage, of course with a little bit of support cards, spot removals and mass removals, and of course card draw. So we're going to do a quick rundown. We have 6 artifacts, 13 creatures, almost Praetor-ish, including geeks. It's also a more Praetor. We have 8 enchantments, 2 instants for battle, and 3 sorcery, as well as composition for the 5-color of 24 lands. So where do we start? Of course, we start with the creatures now. So again, probably Geeks is the only 3 to cast here, as you've noticed. That's basically 3 mana cost and up for our creature lineup. So again, Geeks is a 3 to cast 3/3 from Brothers War. It's ability that when a creature control deals combat damage to one of your opponents, you may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. And there's this ability in the late game of a good mana sink in the form of activating this one, discarding X cards to exile the top X cards over target opponent's library, and you may play lands and cast spells from among them, those who would exiled without paying this mana cost. So that's basically more of a win condition, but particularly by the time I think you're already won with your Praetor already attacking them until you get your opponent's life total to 0. So next up we have Elish Norn. This is the new version again with the flip ability to that of a Saga. So it has ability that whenever a source opponent controls deals damage to your opponent's control, they will lose 2 life unless they pay 1. So that's basically for protecting out your other Praetors in the deck. And take note that it's also a good 3/5 in its ability. At most, if you need to flip this one into a Urgent Itchings, you may do so merely in that the certain scenarios would require you to do that. But basically in its ability to have a 3/5 vigilance with this protection ability would very backbreaking for most of your opponents. Then again, for the 2-drop, we have Shoulder Apocalypse. This again a passive ability combining well with most of your creature Praetors, wherein you can just protect out your creatures and have them lose 2 life whenever they draw a card. So you can also have this one as your sort of a win condition in the mid game, in case that you would certain scenarios that you would not be able to attack them up after their life total, then just do this one just to have them draw a card and lose 2 life for each of those triggers. So that's 2 copies in the deck. We also have 1 copy of Orobras. I think this user pretty much decided to just have 1 of each of these new cards, the flipping Praetors per se. So I have the option also to do with the great work depending also with certain situation. But if you're looking at the 4/4 for 4 mana Orobas, you can have this ability that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you have Orobas deal 1 damage to your opponent and then add for red mana to your mana pool. Then you have the option to exile this one by paying red and then exile it, return it transform, if only if your opponent's has you have casted 3 or more instant or sorcery spells that turn. So if you look at here, you won't really have that scenario where you would be able to flip this one. But again, since we only have 1 copy of this, that's more looking to be like just an optional card to have in this deck. So moving forward, we have the 5 mana cost Elish Norn Machines, which is just a 5 to cast 4/7, wherein you can also have another Vigilance Praetor that can basically protect at you while you're attacking your opponent. And that's this passive ability that triggering effects that don't cost those abilities permanence your opponent's control to trigger. And also you have this ability to cost a trigger ability permanent to control an additional time. So that means if you have Elish Norn Mother of Machines and you cast Leyline Binding on our opponent, you have this trigger ability trigger additional time. That means that could be able to exile an additional target non-permanent for that one. So that's 2 for 1, very much good. That certain scenario you can gain advantage that of Elish Norn Mother of Machines ability. So for another 5 to cast, that is your blue Jingitaxias. This is the flip version again. For 5 to cast 5/5 Ward 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, you will draw a card. So given here, you can have some Fable or Leyline or Battle that can have to get a bonus trigger from ability of Genji Taxias to have you draw a card. Then you have also this option to have them exiled into a flip to the Great Synthesis, but the scenario would really need you to activate only sorcery and only if you have 7 or more cards in hand. So pretty much for a control deck, that's pretty achievable because you have several Cardo effect sources also, and you can get this bonus of the saga and have these triggers later on and be able to flip this one again back to Genji Taxias. So that's quite a lot of scenario that is happening depending on this deck. But what I like about this is that you can really be able to do some sort of steps for you guys to win out the match against your opponent. Now for next one, we have 2 copies of Shieldred. So this is now the version of Shieldred from March of the Machines. It is a 4/5 for 5 minutes. Enters the battlefield, you can have this edict effect. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature or planeswalker. And then you have this ability wherein you can pay 5, exile Shieldred, then return it to the battlefield, transform, but you only need this one if an ability that activation of a sorcery speed at the same time if an opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard. So pretty much in this one is also achievable. You can have these True Scriptures effects also that can have them putting all of your creature cards from all graveyards into the battlefield under your control. So that's pretty much backbreaking per se, and given the nature of this deck that is of a controlish type, you can just basically hope for the True Scriptures flip and then do the lower counter up to 3 and basically win from that setup. So that's 2 copies again. So next we have 5 to cast for Orbas Heretic Praetor for only 1 copy. This is from the new Capena setup. It has a 4/4 haste, exile up card library and play at this turn, so another sort of a pseudo card draw. And the Albino Witch opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card, you can have this ability to have them exile top card library instead, and they may also play at this turn. So not really that backbreaking, except that they would be forced to play that card. For instance, if the card exiled was a counter spell, then they may play at this turn, but the requirement is that you would have them exiled from the top card library instead of putting it into your hand. Now we also have for the green version Praetor Boring Klex. So it is a 5 to cast 6/6 Trample Reach. Again, that's a very good 5-drop per se because of the green nature. When it enters the battlefield, search library for up to 2 forest cards, rebuild it and put it in your hand. Oh, it's not a ramp, but basically you can fill out to search for your 6th and 7th land in the process. Now we have also this activation to turn it into a saga, the Grand Evolution, but it's pretty much very costly with the 8 mana cost activation, and there's not really a requirement except that it is activated only as a sorcery. So you have this evolution set up, main 10 cards, then putting those 2 creature cards into the battlefield. So that's a pseudo total effect, and also have this distribution of 7 counters among any number of target creatures you control, and having this effect that the creatures you control gain pay 1 colorless or any mana. This creature fights target creature you don't control. So another utility card, at the same time a good trampler and a good body for a 6/6 to close out games for hastily as possible. And for a 7 to cast is Genji-Taxias Parasarnant. This is again the Kamigawa in Dynasty version, which also has its effect as a bonus. You have to be able to copy those spells and then countering opponents casting artifact, instant, or sorcery spells, which triggers only once each turn. So with that lineup, we can be really sure that at a lot of your options and basically a lot of shenanigans, as people say, for your creatures to be able to have you gain advantage in most of your board. So we now go for the utility cards. We start off with the Fable of the Mirror again, a good mana ramp with a Shaman token that creates treasures. You have also discard effect to fill out your lands. You discard some of the multiple copies of your Praetor, and also have this reflection of Yugioh to do some good shenanigans. So in addition to that, we also have 4 copies of Lens Binding. Again, the domain effect would have this one cost at the least of 1 mana cost at instant speed, and benefits well with that of Elish Norn Mother Machines. Then we also have some board wipes in terms of drag to the bottom, that is the domain. -X for each of your basic land types among lands you control, +1. That's 2 copies, and also we have a single copy of Farewell to do this exile effect in a massive scenario, and our only 2 instants is 2 copies of Sheoldred's Edict. Now for artifacts, aside from the Recurrent Backmaster, which is basically a good card draw, a good mana sink early game and the late game, we also have the new version of 4 copies of this new card, Realm Breaker, the Invasion 3. It has the ability that for only 2 activation in tap, target opponent mills 3 cards and put a land card from the graveyard into the battlefield tap under your control. So that basically gets you a pseudo ramp effect. Then if this land would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. So the good news here is that they would have to mill out your opponent, so milling the library would also get them closer to that of the library burn if that scenario would arise. But given here that you can be able to put a land card from your graveyard, which means that they have also some several lands. For example, you have a good matchup with the Grixis, you can just took out their tri-land to have your ramp on your own and have those tri-lands do the fixing and ramp up your setup. And in these dark scenarios, you can have this 10 mana cost activation, Zurifies Realm Breaker, the Invasion 3 to search the library for any number of Praetor cards and put it in the battlefield. So basically, you can search out all of them and have them put in the battlefield at the same time with that effect. So basically, by that time already, I think you already won the game. In case that they have placed under that scenario that you would need to activate this one, then that is a good send up for you to just basically cast out and put all of these creature Praetors from your library up into the battlefield. And last but not least is our new battle here. It is just an uncommon, that is the Invasion of Zendikar. This is a 4 to cast, search for library for up to 2 basic lands, put in the battlefield tap, so that's a good mana ramp for 4. And you would also be able to flip this one as it is defeated. It turns into an Awakened Skyclave, that is a 4/4 creature elemental, Vigilance Haste. As long as the Skyclave is in the battlefield, it is a land card in addition to its other types, and also can produce mana of any color. So another good creature for your board advantage, and at the same time can fix out any mana if needed. Now for the last part, we have some land distributions here. So it's composed of slow lands, some Hunted Reach, some basic lands of course, and the tri-lands of Yatmir's Garden. We also have Sanders Lands and Yatora's Proving Ground as the core mana fix, and also having the basic land types in them to do the discount for that of Lens Binding. Overall, it is a very interesting deck to try out. I think the land setup also would be, for my liking, I would add more instead of just 24, given that your mana curve would go against 4 and 5. That's 4.8, but you can see here that's 4 mana cost and 5 mana cost, and up are very much that highest. And we would not really want to miss our land drops here, even if we have the Realm Breaker and Cardos as our good source to do some early fixing. But naturally, we just need to have land drops as early as possible. I think for this build, I would rather go with having 25 lands maybe, and then cut out Farewell, since they would also affect our Praetors in case that we would need to exile our creatures, as compared to that of the drag to the bottom wherein there are scenarios wherein you can just control the domain effect in order for that to wipe out your opponent's creature board. And last but not the least, card distribution is pretty much even. The card types are mostly black, red, and green, whereas the rest would really go well along with the mana fix, as long as you can draw all of those tri-lands and slow lands to your disposal, and adding mana if needed. And also we have these tokens, the copy, Goblin Shaman, Incubator, which flips into Phyrexian token, the Pilot again, and of course the Treasure that is also produced by this Goblin Shaman from the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I guess that's about it. I'm pretty sure if tested wise, can try this one for your casual and maybe for your non-rank gameplay. But what I suggest, you could need to set up a good sideboard plan for this, as it's very much complicated to see that having a 5 mana colored deck that has a lot of options to do. And if you would really need to check on the metagame, they would just look on the recent tournament results online MTG Arena and do the sideboard adjustments to your liking according to that data that just presented. So I guess that's about it, guys. Thank you for checking on this. Again, 5-color Praetors by Anonymous for your March of the Machines standard deck tech. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the channel for more of the future MOM deck techs, not only in standard but also we can also explore more as the new cards hit Pioneer and Modern formats in the game. Again, thank you guys for watching and see you guys on the next video.